Welcome to this episode of Inspiring Conversations. I'm talking with inspiring leaders and successful entrepreneurs. If you haven't seen any of these episodes before, my name is Mikaela and I'm from Sweden. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm passionate about the digital life. I'm also a job coach and a mom. In this episode, we will talk with Steve Herbert from the US. And he has started and ran different businesses, and he's about to launch his own online course, Kaizen. And Kaizen is a system for achieving your goals. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Mikaela. I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Great having you here.
Thanks.
So tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay. As you said, started several businesses. Really, my entrepreneurial efforts started at a very early age. I literally had the lemonade stand out on the street, and I did it quite well with it. To be fair, it was in front of my mother's store. So I come by it very honestly. So I was in love with that sort of thing from a very early age. Age 14, I started a small jewelry business where I made and sold sterling silver jewelry. And that was a great business. I also bought out of New York. This is when I lived in New Orleans. And, absolutely loved that, made great money. Went to college, not really for me. Was never really in love with the structured learning, although I love learning. I'm a lifelong student. And then kind of worked for myself, got into various construction jobs, did some working for other people in the theater world and that sort of thing, but they were always more as independent contractor kind of work than strict employee. And finally had an opportunity to start a lifelong dream of mine, which is real estate business, and got into buying and fixing houses, wound up opening a real estate brokerage firm, rehab business, construction business, managing rental properties, buying them for my own investment, teaching other investors how to buy properties and that sort of thing, as well as a small private lending company. And things were going really well until the real estate crash, and really hit me hard, kind of wiped me out. Worked to rebuild the construction company, which of course, right after the real estate crash, nobody was building anything. So it was kind of a tough time to be in the construction business, but we were able to rebuild it and, do that. A lot of what I was looking for when I was doing these different ventures is the freedom to spend the time with my family. Ultimately, that's what I was looking for. How I could spend more time with my family. And I knew that working a job definitely wasn't going to do it. So I figured having my own business would do it. But in all of those businesses, it seemed like I really never got the time that I wanted. My job really ruled my schedule, and keeping clients happy and employees and all the things that go on with that takes a lot of time. And that's when I started looking online and looking for something different online, and really have made that transition over the last year and a half, 2 years to online. And as I did that, I noticed there was this great need for people who hadn't been entrepreneurs before to be able to organize themselves, to be able to look at what needs to get done, break it down into easily executable tasks, and then get those on your schedule and get them done. So that's what drove me to create Kaizen. Is I've done this intuitively, throughout my entire life. I just kind of learned it. I've also always, as I said, always been a student. So I've studied Stephen Covey, Tony Robbins, you name it, I've studied them. And I've kind of taken everything that I've learned as a student, as well as what I've learned as an entrepreneur, and put it into this system. Bare bones, easy, step by step, just what you need to move forward and get from one step to the next, without making it too complex, I think. So it's really focused on people who are probably in the digital world or want to be in the digital world. Technically, anybody can use it, but I think it's really focused around people that are making that transition into the digital world. If that makes sense at all.
Yeah, yes. And especially when you say that you wanted to make it simple and break it down, because in my opinion, you can be a starter by setting goals and breaking down things, but you can also make it more complex. And sort of, if you have bigger goals and sort of break it down to different paths, and also you have incorporated some personal development in the course here. I've seen the 5 things leaders do. Maybe you can talk about that and explain what it is, and why have you
Sure.
put that into the system? Is it so important?
Yeah, well, the 5 things leader do, and it's taped here on my desk as a constant reminder for me. You know, that you every day you visualize. Income producing activities is number 2. Invest in yourself, number 3. Number 4, mastermind with other leaders, and 5, learn, do, teach. So you're sharing your knowledge. I think of learn and do really are applied in the first 4. So really, I think of the 5th one as just teach, share what you've learned, spread the knowledge, spread the wealth. So keeping those things in mind, it's a great foundation for anybody to start their day or to make sure they're progressing towards their goals. If you look at a day and say, have I done those 5 things? Or if you look at a week and ask yourself, am I consistently doing these things? So there's another element in there that you didn't mention, which was the habit tracker. And that, you know, ultimately any success that we get out of life, no matter what it is, business, personal, professional, financial, health, spiritual, it's through our habits. What we do regularly is what's going to get us from where we are today to where we want to be in the future. So using that habit tracker and tying it in with things like the 5 things that leaders do, and then taking somebody's unique personal goals, like you said, it could be something simple. There's, you know, some sort of short, I don't want to use small because I don't mean that in a negative way, but you know, sort of
Not complex.
Yeah, a little less complex goal, right? As opposed to, you know, I want to quit my job, start a business, and open 5 new stores in the next 3 years, something like that. There, you know, a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that you've got to go through to create that end goal like that. So, yes, personal development is very important in anything that we as people do, because let's face it, if I was the person that I needed to be today to have the goals that I want a year from now, I'd already have those goals. I've got to grow. I've got to learn new skills. I've got to learn new behaviors. I've got to be connected with new people. I've got to do things, new, different, better things to get to that new goal. Take something simple like getting in shape. You know, if I want to run a 10K race and do it in a certain time, sitting here in my office chair isn't going to get me, isn't going to improve my running skills. I've got to do something different. I've got to increase my training. You know, so whether it's a physical goal, a financial goal, a mental goal, it doesn't really matter. I don't know why these earpieces don't want to stay in my ear and they keep coming out. It bugs me. Anyway, so we've got to go through that personal development to get from here to there. So it's got to be part. We've got to acknowledge that that's part of our journey.
But if there is someone watching this video and they feel that they are really onto something. They know how to move and get ahead. They are a go-getter. Do they also need these 5 steps, or is it, or do they need Kaizen at all?
You know, I'm not going to say that Kaizen will, you know, work for everybody and it's perfect for everybody. It has the elements within it for people to have the structure so that they can get from A to Z, whatever it is that they want to do. They've got to do the work at the end of the day. It's not magic. It gives them process to follow, structure to follow, so that they can know if they're on track and get to where they want to go. If somebody is already a go-getter, already has systems and process in place, and is already going down the road and knows they're going to get there, and they just need to, you know, it's just going to take another 2 months or, you know, whatever it is, and they're no problem. Maybe they don't need it. I don't know. I do know that just about everybody has room for improvement in some area of their life. And that's why at the very beginning of the Kaizen course, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning, the meaning of Kaizen, Japanese word Kai meaning change and Zen meaning good. So it goes back to that principle of having to become a different person, make changes in our own lives to be able to get from A to Z, to get to those ultimate goals that we want. So that's why the name Kaizen. And then having that structure so that you know what you're doing are the correct steps, and then being able to track those steps so that if you've given yourself this amount of time, you know you should be here at halfway. Are you there? Aren't you? So it's all of those things that, you know, we're just not taught in schools. You go to university and they don't teach you how to do any of this.
Exactly.
They teach you how to research and, you know, learn math or science, but they don't teach you how to, you know, go for your goals, change your future, become a better you. You know.
And something else you haven't mentioned, in the beginning of the course, you have a life wheel, and you can see how well, maybe you can explain how you put things into the life wheel.
Sure. Yeah. The life wheel gives a visual representation of how satisfied somebody is with their life. Divide people's lives, everyone's lives, into 8 categories. You know, it could be 10, it could be 4, but I've used 8. And, you know, things like spirituality, love and romance, health, wealth, personal development, categories like that. And for each category, you rate it 1 to 10, 10 being perfect, 1 being the worst it could be. Quickly go through, give your first impression, and that's important, first impression of each category. And then you put that in. And because it's in a wheel, each segment, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, has a little curved arc to it. So as you fill it in, you can see how balanced your life is. And for most people, when they have that visual representation of the things that they're satisfied with and the things that they're not satisfied with, it's pretty eye-opening quite often.
Yes, it is.
Because they look at it and go, oh, I knew I wasn't happy, but wow, now I know where and why. And maybe you're really focused on one aspect of your life. Maybe it's love and romance. Maybe it's finance. Maybe it's personal development. You really want to make that better. But when you look at it as a whole and you put a little bit more energy onto some of those areas that are lacking, creating that balance is going to help. It's going to help you feel better about every part of your life, which is going to help you be more successful. So that's why that's the very first thing, is you look at your life. So Kaizen is divided into 3 phases. So there's the assess, plan, and action. And the life wheel exercise is the very first exercise. So you're assessing where you are, and then you move through each one of those 8 segments, creating priorities and then organizing them Again, it's very step by step, linear, easy progression. The other thing that I really stress is just do the step, what's required, and don't stress about it being perfect. I see people moving through Kaizen, and they get all worried about, well, what should I do here? Is this right? All of these documents change because our lives change. You know, a year from now, ideally, your life wheel is going to look a lot different because you will have gotten much more satisfaction out of certain areas of your life and had greater achievements, achieved some of your goals. So that's going to look different. And then what you want is going to change because you've achieved some of the things that you wanted a year ago. So then you've got to fill that gap with something new. So my point is that don't let perfect be the enemy of done. Go out there, fill it out, give it your first impression. You know, there's not really a wrong answer because you can go and change them at any time. So don't stress about that. Do the steps, move on. Do the steps, move on. And it gets people used to taking action, and it gets people used to getting those little successes. It's that small, consistent success, Kaizen, small changes over time, that add up to that ultimate goal. Whether it's you want to start a new business, nobody wakes up tomorrow with that new business. You've got to go through the steps and the small wins of each little step along the way to progress and have that new business or whatever your goal is.
I'm thinking both before when you got this idea and you talked to entrepreneurs and people who needed this course, but also those who have done the pre-launch now and gone through the course, what do you feel or have a sense of is the most difficult phase for the people going through the course? Is it to set the goals, or is it to take action, or is it to get a habit, or what is it that is
I don't know if there is a consistent issue. I would probably say getting started is, you know, so many people talk about, I want this, I want to go do this. And it's the difference between a wish and a goal. You know, I want to lose weight. That's a wish. I want to lose 35 pounds in the next 30 days. That's a defined goal. Okay. And most people really live their lives in the wish stage, and oh, I want to lose weight. I wish I could lose weight. I'll go on a diet next month. You know, that sort of thing. People take action, they're going to get results. So doing that first step, committing to it and deciding you're going to do it, is probably the single most difficult thing for people to do. Beyond that, you know, everybody has distractions. That's probably the second biggest thing. Is people that do actually get started, do take action, do move forward, is that over time they'll get distracted, get out of routine. And that happens to all of us, which goes back to the habit tracker, because it's kind of your conscience. You know, what did you say you're going to do this month? Have you been doing it? Yes or no? It's right there. So then, you know, being honest with yourself, and if you get to that point where you realize you're not on track, instead of beating yourself up and going, oh, I can't do this, acknowledge it, go, okay, I'm not on track, and start taking action again. And don't waste your energy feeling bad about when you weren't doing what you committed to yourself to do. It doesn't help you. It's not going to move you forward. So just acknowledge it and move on. Be a good friend to yourself. If you were talking to yourself, you know, and if you were talking to your friend and your friend was talking about, oh, you know, I was doing really well, going to the gym every day and eating really well, and then the holidays came and for the last week I haven't done anything. Are you going to tell your friend, well, you might as well give up. You can't do it, right? You're not. But that's not how we talk to ourselves, is it?
No.
No. I mean, the way we talk to ourselves, we wouldn't hang out with ourselves. You know, I wouldn't be my own friend sometimes. I'd be like, who is this guy? I don't need him in my life. He's rude. He's not very supportive. I'm not going to talk to him again. Yet we accept that from ourselves. It's crazy, right? We all do it. You're laughing because I know you've done it. We've all done it. We all do it.
But I also listened to you during the course when you said, don't beat yourself up about it, because it's so nice to hear that you should be kind to yourself. So, yes, I agree. But since we're talking about time, the time span, and you say that if you're not on track, you can get on the habit again and all that. But the course, how long is the course?
Forever and a day.
You have to be more specific.
I know that wasn't the answer you were looking for, was it?
No.
Well, obviously I'm having some fun there, but it's as long as you want it to be. To get through the different modules, it's going to be a few hours. I suggest people break it up over a couple of days to get through it. Each step really isn't that long. You do the life wheel, habit tracker, just to, even if the only thing you put on the habit tracker is do Kaizen this week, and make sure you do it every day. Start with the habit tracker and then move through the life categories. You do, the brain dump, which is just getting everything out of your head and down on paper. That's going to free up a lot of mental space for you, help you create clarity, help you put things in order, and getting organized, eliminating that sense of overwhelm. Because when you have all of those things running around in your head of everything that you've got to do with all the different parts and kids and spouses and whatever it is, once you get it all out on paper, it frees up your mind to be more creative and to figure out those next steps. Get it out on paper, sort it into the life categories, prioritize it. That's really the bulk of the work, getting through that, getting each life category prioritized into your top 5. Because then you have a clear path. You got 8 aspects of your life with 5 things to do that should be executable tasks, not entire projects. So it should be, call Bob about my new business. Things that straightforward. And if they're not, that's when you need to break it down into executable tasks. So it might be a bigger project. Then you take that project, you break it down into tasks, and then put it on your schedule, get it done. Then it's really just a matter of rinse and repeat, where you're using your priorities, you know what you need to do, you're scheduling your week. Most people are going to have a huge block of time in the middle of the day that's called job. I hope we do. Time that you've got to spend somewhere, providing for yourself. And then you figure out where you can, there's one guy that I'm working with right now. He takes his lunch hour at work, and he does, so he knows he's got one dedicated hour in the middle of every day where he can focus on the things that he needs to do. And he'll get up 30 minutes earlier in the morning. He'll do his hour, and then he might do 20 minutes in the evening, but with family responsibilities, that's kind of hard. So he knows he's going to get that hour and a half pretty much 5 days a week, which adds up. So again, write it down. You can start to visualize where your time is. And then all you're doing is repeating. Schedule, execute, schedule, execute, schedule, execute. And by continually scheduling and execute, taking your priorities, scheduling them, executing them, you're building that success habit of working towards your goal. You're also clearly able to see that you're making progress, because you're able to scratch things off the list. I've done that. 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 So it's really important, because you're building the habit of success and giving yourself acknowledgement for it. So often, just like we were talking about being a bad friend to yourself,
Mm.
we also tend to focus on what we haven't done.
Yeah.
All of the things that are left undone
Mm.
seems to be where our focus is. And
Mm.
we forget how far we've come.
Mm.
We don't give ourselves that credit. Again, being that good friend to yourself.
Yeah.
Give yourself that credit for everything you've done to get to where you are today. And that's a side note, but I'll talk about that in a second. So as you're going through the Kaizen, as you're going through the program, you're able to look at it daily and weekly and say, yeah, I'm doing it. And you develop that habit of giving yourself credit, seeing your success. And that also helps you continue to move forward
Mm-hmm.
because you have that, you give yourself that recognition of progress.
You just talked about a lot of the sheets, and there are a lot of sheets and a lot of names. So
yes,
if the viewers now didn't understand the habit tracker and the outcome and whatever the name are, now when you're launching, are you going to, is it possible to get help from you, from personal coaching?
we're going to have different levels. There's what I call the DIY, do-it-yourself version, which is access to all the training, all the bonuses, all the PDFs, everything for life. And you can go through and progress through that way yourself. Pretty easy, very straightforward. And then there are going to be, I think probably 3, it's part of the reason I haven't launched is this isn't carved in stone yet, probably 3 additional levels where you can get one-on-one coaching with me. One where it's going to be maybe 3 or 4 sessions. So for once a week for 30 minutes, we'll have that. There'll be another with maybe 6, 7 coaching sessions to really get people moving. 3 or 4 sessions it's going to get you probably past that 21-day mark, which is important. Really, truly, habits are built after 60 days. So that second level of the 6, 7, or 8 week package. And then there's another one beyond that. It's 12 weeks. It's also going to contain a DISC assessment study, which is gives you insight into your personality, whether you're more of an outgoing person, whether you're more of an introverted person. And having these insights into your personality, I think, can really help people in how they interact with other people. If they know that they're a dominant person and that they're always the one taking charge, it can give you a certain awareness. And then also being able to recognize, are you working with another dominant person and you might be likely to do this? Or are you working with somebody who's not a dominant person, but then you need to give them consideration and the ability to speak? Because if they're not naturally going to come out and say something, is there a resentment building up there? Mm-hmm. So having these awarenesses of who you are innately, what kind of your natural strengths are, and how those interact with other personalities, really, I think is incredibly important for people who are in leadership positions. And as an entrepreneur, you are a leader. There is no question.
Yeah. And I would like to say that I have done this course and during the pre-launch, and I can so agree when you were talking about the life wheel and you look at the wholeness of your life and get a perspective that some parts are not just there. So you get to think or rethink things and set new goals so you can start building up there. And even if it
I'm sorry, I think it's important. It's that awareness that's so important. It doesn't mean you're gonna stop everything you're doing and go move next to your grandparents because you realize that you've left your family and loved ones out of your life, you're not going to do something like that, probably not. And I'm not talking about you just in general. But it's having that awareness so that you can make an adjustment. There's one guy that I was working with that, family was really low for him. And we started talking about it. And I found out he had family relatively close to him. I was like, well, made a couple of suggestions about how he might be able to interact with them. He's like, yeah, I can do that. And, it's simple stuff, but sometimes we just need that mirror, to have somebody say it. Or, there's a good chance he would have thought of that since he had put it down on paper and realized that that was important to him and he wasn't taking action. But sometimes it's important. So that's, we were talking about the course and things. There's also the Facebook group. So I think that's an important element to it. One, for accountability. It's one thing. It's great. You're awesome. You're a very self-motivated person. So for you, it's probably easier than other people because you know what you want to do. You take action and you do it. Other people probably aren't as self-confident and direct as you. So they need more support. And having the Facebook group, I think, is very helpful in that. People can go there. I encourage everybody to post their life wheel, to post their habit tracker, and have that public accountability for it. And it's, if you kind of start to withdraw and you feel a little bit scared about that, it probably means you should do it.
Exactly.
Just put it out there, and everybody else in the group, it's a private group. Only people participating in Kaizen have access to it, can see it, that sort of thing. So you don't have to worry about strangers or anything.
No, everybody is in the same boat. We are all doing the Kaizen. So yes.
And when you first do your life wheel, you're like, oh, that's really weird. And then you look in the Facebook group and you're like, oh, it's not as weird as that one. It's not as weird as that. Oh, wait, they all look the same.
Yeah.
They're all out of balance.
And the positive thing is that you have recognized that you need to do something about your life in certain parts. So in fact, that it is not so good. So then it's real.
Acknowledging it and taking action. Absolutely.
But also I want to say that it might seem very complicated with a lot of sheets, and now when we are talking and naming stuff here, but it really isn't. And if you take one step at a time, and you are very methodically doing the pushing us forward in the course, so it's really not complicated. It's very simple to get started.
I appreciate you saying that. That's my goal, is to make it, I kind of tried to boil everything down. Oh, I apologize. Can you hear that?
No.
Sorry. It's ringing in my ear, but I tried to break it down to simple, strip away a lot of the extra tasks, the things that they're not required to move forward. I see in so many of these things that people get distracted by shiny balls and electronics and stuff. It's do the work, move forward, do the next step, move forward. And try to keep it simple.
So it was really, really nice to talk to you, Steve. And I just want to say to everyone watching now, if you would like to have more information about Kaizen course, you can find information below this video in the description box. And you can also see my website there. And I hope you subscribe so that you can see the next episode of Inspiring Conversations. Thank you so much, Steve, for this
Thank you so
conversation.
much for having me on. And just really quick, that link that is down below, the life wheel exercise is free, so you can go over there and just do the life wheel exercise, kind of get an idea. And I think there are a couple other videos. You can just kind of check it out, see if you like it or not.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Bye.